Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Upkick MMA episode 496. I am Brendan. UFC 318, Holloway versus Poirier, a numero tres. Yeah, this was, this night overall didn't feel as much as they wanted to. It didn't feel like a big pay-per-view event. I understand the crowd showed up. I understand, but it just didn't feel like, how do I put this? It didn't feel like something was on the line. Okay. That being said, fantastic night of fights. Was not disappointed even a little bit. Thank you for coming over here. We're gonna talk about all the fights on the card. We're gonna break them down, go through them round by round, talk about the scoring, go through a little bit of details here and there, talk about what happened. All right. If you like this kind of thing, subscribe to the channel. That way the next video is coming out, and I'd really appreciate it. Let's get into the fight. Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier. This is the third time they have fought, right? The first time was at 145. Poirier finished him. The second time was at 155. Kind of like I call it bloated Holloway. Stepping up and taking him on. Holloway performed well as the fight went on, but Poirier just hit way harder. So it based off of that last performance, what did you guys think was going to happen here? Because I talked to somebody about this. What do you think was going to happen? Something told me that Max Holloway was going to win. I just couldn't explain how. Because you look at Dustin Poirier, he still hits hard. I thought maybe the moment of him retiring, maybe that changes how he performs slightly and it gives Holloway an edge. It just didn't. I don't think that's what happened. I think Dustin Poirier had a great fight. And each round was we'll go through them, but they were relatively close as far as how I scored them. The output was all Holloway, of course. Anyway, Poirier with the pressure. Holloway sitting on that right-hand counter really well early. Holloway was landing hard kicks to the body. He kept going to that all fight, and it worked really well for him. He even was doing that spinning kick to the body. And then Holloway drops him with a right hand, and then drops him with a left. This first round was great. The second round had the same thing going on. Poirier fighting his way off the fence with the 1-2 and the low kick coming from him. Holloway has really punished the body with kicks and spinning kicks and even landing some straights to the body. He was going to the body really well all fight. I mean, in this round alone, how many did he land to the body? 11 of 16 to the body. Great shots. Poirier seemed to recover from all the damage, but he's just not able to sustain any damage of his own in this first round, so I had a 10-9 for Holloway. Second round here, just based on how the fight is playing out, I was like, man, it's going to be a hard night. Hard night for Poirier to get a win. You think about it, Holloway is known as being the volume guy. He's also much better fighting going forward than he is going backwards. It's a significant difference. And every time Poirier was able to put the pressure on him, he could find the mark, he could land big. Holloway just continued to outland him. He would stop, counter, he would rotate out. He would do a really good job of all that stuff, but more importantly, he was the one who was moving forward a lot early on in this fight, and the power was there for him, right? So in this round, Poirier lands a really nice left hand, and he'll have some moments really nice there with the jab, but Holloway is just sitting down, not sitting down. He's just putting so much more out there. And then Poirier lands a sweet shot, and then Holloway counters with a 1-2, hurts him, puts him down. And then Holloway getting into the mount. Poirier survives. They get back up. And then Poirier starts landing. He lands a hook straight left and then drops him with the right hand. Jumps the guillotine. Of course he does. Doesn't get it. Ends the round with some good ground and pound. Relatively close round. Here's the thing. So striking numbers in that first round at 26-16, that was clearly Max Holloway's round. This round, 44-25. Now, if you leaned towards Poirier, I think that's a little bit of recency bias. What I mean, if you look at the beginning of that round, Holloway was kind of tuning him up, did a ton of damage, and dropped him himself. Okay, Dustin Poirier at the end of that round, he did a great job and dropped him, but just because something happens at the end of the round doesn't inherently mean it's more important than what happens in the beginning of the round. What your feelings about this do not matter. That's how the judging criteria is supposed to go. If I punch you in the first 10 seconds and then you punch me in the last 10 seconds, if it's the same punch, they count for the exact same amount. That's how that works. this whole thing where, well, he was still there at the end of it, and clearly, all that stuff that Holloway didn't do enough to put Poirier out, and he was able to land, so that's more important. That's not how any of this works. Holloway outlanded him, and in my opinion, outdamaged him. If you think that Poirier did more damage when his opportunity came up and got closer to a finish, there's an argument for this round for him. Okay? I'm not going to make that argument. I don't think that's the case. I had a 20-18. So much more sustained damage and instantaneous damage from Holloway. So, in the third round, tons of kicking from both guys. Poirier able to apply pressure, landing that jab really well. Holloway was able to evade the big shots at the end of him, right? So, Poirier would work his way in. He would jab really well. And then when he would follow up with those power shots, it's not that he never would land. It's just it wouldn't land that often against Holloway. And then there was moments, right, where every time there was any pause in the action, Holloway would just get up on the scorecard. He would just constantly put stuff out. This round was probably one of the closer ones. It wasn't a ton of damage. It just, Holloway kept finding a way to keep the shots on target. He was starting to land more combos. Poirier started to get a little bit more stationary in this round. 38-21 for second numbers in favor of Holloway. I had it 30-27. I mean, I don't know. When you're watching this live, go back and watch this live if you don't believe me. These numbers don't tell the whole story. These rounds were pretty close. Poirier does hit hard, and when he landed hard. But I still had it for Holloway, 30-27. Fourth round. Early in the round, Poirier is doubling and tripling up on the jab. He did this a little bit in the third round as well, where he's chasing Holloway, and instead of just following him, by trying to get into position and walk him down, he's throwing jabs out there while he's doing it. And he might not land with all of them. Hell, he might not land with the first 2 or 3 of them. But eventually, he keeps throwing that out there. Holloway has to stop at some point, and Poirier's fist finds his face. So that happened a few times, and then he would follow up with it. It was really good stuff, right? But as a round goes on, at the 3-minute mark, I had him up on damage. And then Holloway looks like he's taking a minute to collect himself before he really lets go. He's still putting combos out there and going to the body really well. I mean, hell, what did he land in the fourth round? 15 of 18 to the body. And, Poirier has responded to every big shot in this round with a big shot of his own. But the thing is, in between those moments, right? The volume that makes a difference. The big shots felt like they were 1-for-1 in this round. Every time Holloway would land a big one, Poirier would land a big one, and vice versa. But it's in between is where that's where he makes his money, right? In those little moments. And that's what he did. 44-22, striking numbers in favor of Holloway. So I had 40-36. And I even wrote, damn, this is so close. It really is. It does feel like it. Looking at the striking numbers and how I'm scoring it, I know it seems like one-way traffic. It's really not. And then, I wrote this down. The moments in between the big moments is where Holloway leads, right? Anytime there's the big moment happening, it might be 50-50. Hell, Poirier might have a better sequence, but Holloway just finds the ways in between those big moments to stay active. Anytime Poirier finds a mark with the left hand, Holloway lands to the body or comes back with his own. He lands big with the right hand, and then Poirier comes back with his big left. Great round, 46-25. I had this last one for Holloway. Also in that last 10 seconds, Holloway just goes absolutely bananas. And Poirier talked about it afterwards. He wanted to stand there with him, and he did, but then he got cracked a couple times. He's like, fuck this. I'm just going to wrestle. He only got 8 seconds left. Holloway takes the mic, says, I want to fight the champ. Being Ilia Topuria, I've got history with him. I won the belt, blah, 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 blah. He won this belt, so, go put this belt on the line. And then he gave the mic to Poirier to kind of just talk about his retirement. So cool stuff. Really cool from Holloway. Awesome that the UFC put all this together and let Poirier talk and, do his farewell video and stuff. And real quick, actually, let's go look at the scorecards. Why is Dan Ige all the way at the bottom here? What the? Oh my goodness. This is so annoying. I'm trying to pull up the scorecards. Normally I pulled them up and they're just not there. I have no idea. Why the hell they're not up here on the at UFC's own website? Trying to give them traffic, and gosh darn it. Sorry about that, guys. All right. Looking at the scorecards here. See, Saul D'Amato gave that second round to Poirier. Okay. Again, I think the argument can be made that that's not a bad scorecard. Derek clearly gave Poirier 3 and 4. Maybe 3. You cannot make that argument for 4. I don't think so. And then Eric Colon gave the 4th round. Maybe, man, you put these 3 scorecards together, and Poirier could win this one. That's what I'm saying. Like, it was relatively close, and I understand it, but all these scorecards are fine. They're not great. Derek clearly and Eric Colon, I don't think, are great scorecards. And mine, like, I had a 50-45. I don't think that's bad. All right, I did want to do a little bit of history and go through Poirier's career in the UFC. Well, the WEC first. Yeah, probably one of the best to ever not be the outright champion in a division. Because we're talking about back in 2011. I mean, technically he fought in 2010 against Danny Castillo. Wow, back in August 2010. That's crazy. And when he made it to the UFC, let's see, he got his first win over Max Holloway 13 years ago. That's crazy. I remember that loss to the Korean Zombie. The loss to Cub Swanson. Diego Brandao. Akira Kurosani. I don't remember that one. That original loss to Conor McGregor, he figured that shit out. Win against Diego Ferreira, Yancy Medeiros, Joe Duffy, King Green, all of those great freaking wins back in 2015, 2016. I remember that. That's when he stepped up, and then Michael Johnson comes out of nowhere. Like, he was beating the best of the best. Diego Ferreira, Yancy Medeiros, like, they're hot stuff. Joe Duffy, hot stuff at the time. Bobby King Green, hot stuff at the time, and he comes out and he beats all of them convincingly, and then gets knocked out by Michael Johnson. This really threw a wrench in everything. Then beats Jim Miller. They have that no contest with Eddie Alvarez. Man, that was such a good time for Poirier. Beats Anthony Pettis, Justin Gaethje in a war. Then that rematch against Eddie Alvarez. Beats Max Holloway. Gets the belt. And then has to fight Khabib. Loses to Khabib. Fight. Then that Dan Hooker war. Fantastic. Beats the shit out of Conor McGregor in the first one. Was losing the second one. But then, the injury happened. And then he gets a title shot against Charles, loses that one, beats Michael Chandler, and then gets knocked out by Justin Gaethje, beats the shit out of Benoit Saint-Denis, loses to Islam Makhachev for the title. Yeah, back in last year. That sucked. Good performance in that one, but just couldn't get it done. And then now Max Holloway. Great career, man. 30-10 overall. That's a great record. Never losing 2 fights in a row until this last one against Max Holloway. All right, I spent 15 minutes talking about this. It's just a fantastic career. I'm excited. And then Max Holloway, I'm super excited to have him step up and hopefully fight for a title at lightweight again. That'd be great. All right, Paulo Costa taking on Roma Kopylov. Boy, people are sleeping on Costa. I don't know why. Both guys landing low kicks. Costa landing harder earlier. Then Kopylov looks jittery, missing on the entries. Costa countering and landing those low kicks really well. Kopylov just couldn't open up. He was just pushing forward and waiting. Moves in, waiting. Costa lands a big right hand that drops him, and now Costa's pushing forward. This round wasn't even close. 34-11. Kopylov didn't even freaking throw anything that landed, and Costa, drops him and he did so. This Costa looked fantastic in this entire fight. This first round really put Kopylov in his place. 10-9. Second round. Costa digging the kicks to the body, the legs, landing the jab to the body, and that check hook when Kopylov moves in. Kopylov just looks so uncomfortable, right? When he's moving backwards, he doesn't like having to react to everything. He wants to lead the dance, and Costa is just doing such a good job, landing sweet hooks to the body, hurts him with the right hand over the top, and Kopylov was holding his left arm I think he hurt his left arm with the kicks. Costa's just way out in front. 32-16 for striking numbers. I had 20-18. Last round. This looks a lot more like the first round with Kopylov staying with the pressure, moving forward, and this time he's throwing a little bit more. He had his best round here in the last round, but Costa's still sitting down on the punches, digging to the body with the kicks. Costa, I had him even winning this last round, 33-21 for striking numbers. Looking at the scorecards here, Chris Lee is the only judge who gave that last round to Kopylov. I mean, that makes sense. I think Paulo Costa. What rank is Paulo? Sorry. 9? No, 13. Okay. That was 13 and 14. So Marvin Vettori lost to Brendan Allen. So Brendan Allen moves up. Paulo Costa takes their spot, maybe. I don't know if he moves against RDR, though. RDR might move up one. Paulo Costa's unlikely to hop into the top 10 after this, but he's calling out Hamzat for, extracurricular activities, and I'm not getting into hearsay, and I don't want to follow outside the cage drama for the most part. So I'd be excited to watch that fight, though. It'd be nice to see somebody in the division who actually shows up to fight. Kevin Holland versus Daniel Rodriguez. Just classic Daniel Rodriguez fight. It's just activity, right? He did hurt him a few times, but it was an activity thing. He was more aggressive than usual with his left hand early, and every time Rod would overpush and overextend himself, Kevin Holland would get him in the clinch, and I was like, okay, well, maybe this is how it's going to play out. Kevin Holland's going to find his moments in there. No, Rodriguez did a really good job staying on the outside. He tries to rush in, but Holland slips and counters. Rodriguez hurts him a little bit. They get right back. He gets right back into it, avoiding all the shots as Rodriguez pushes in. Classic Rodriguez fight where he just finds a way to squeak in more strikes. But this first round, 40-29 in favor of Holland. This is one of those things where who did more damage? I think Rodriguez did more damage in this round. But yeah, Holland was more active, and he kicked a ton to the body, kicked a lot to the legs, and he's doing a lot of, Holland did a lot of good work in here. And if he didn't get slightly rocked or slightly hurt, I think Holland wins this fight. Anyway, second round, big left hand, puts Holland down. He's on his back. Rodriguez lets him up. He ends up falling. This is the only round that he outstruck him in, 31-12. Ends up putting some damage on him. Holland ducks under, gets a beautiful double leg, Holland fought his way back into this round, but clearly he lost this one, 31-12 for striking numbers in favor of Rodriguez. Clearly his round. I had 20-18, and I think that Holland needed to finish. Holland started to let it all hang out there. Rodriguez lands a jab. Holland waiting now. Holland is starting to swing super wild, and then in tight, Holland drops him with an uppercut, and he hurts him, and Rod was able to get back up, get on top himself at the end. Clearly Holland's round hurt him, 30-17. It just wasn't enough. That just sucks. I love Kevin Holland. I think, watching him fight super fun. Saul D'Amato, Junichi Kamijo, and Chris Lee, the all-star squad there, all saw it the same way, given those first two rounds to Rodriguez. That's fine. That's how I scored it. Makes sense. Wow, there was a lot of decisions on the main card, huh? Yikes. Let's move this along. Dan Ige versus Patricio Pitbull. Why do they have it as Fajeda in here? Nobody calls him that. Everybody calls him Patricio Pitbull. Very boring fight. We actually don't have to break this one down that much. Basically, this first round was hard to score because not a lot of activity happened. 7-6 for striking numbers in favor of Pitbull. Ige stayed what it felt like he was staying busier. He outthrew him 28-13, but it felt like the damage was pretty even. And then Fajeda did get a slam and a trip along the cage. So like he did do more stuff. So I gave it to him. I had it 10-9. Yeah, he like had him in a cradle and was holding him there for a little bit. Second round, the pressure from Pitbull is really starting to pressure from Pitbull? Oh, sorry. The pressure from Pitbull in here, but there's just so much standing and waiting as Ige, he's staying more active with the low kicks and everything, and he's doing a better job of just keeping stuff out there. And I had him ahead until Pitbull counters with a right hand, drops him, and then, hits him with a knee, goes crazy, outstrikes him here 37-19. Good round for Pitbull. I have him up 2 rounds, and basically Ige needs a finish in this last round. Ige landing a nasty knee to the head from a high kick. Pitbull somehow stayed alive and ate it. Ige push kicking him in the nuts a little bit. He was staying in his face, keeping the volume up as Pitbull still waiting. They end the fight with a leg entanglement. Ige takes this round for sure, outstriking him 22-11, outdamaging him. But he did not win. He did not win those first 2 rounds, or either one of them. That's how all 3 judges had it. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that's how all 3 judges had it. Is this the same guys? Dimitri Comedian? No, it's Eric Cologne that time. All right, and then we'll talk about the first fight on the main card here. Sorry, I know this video's gone long, but we had a retirement and a main event to talk about, and there was a ton of decisions. All right, Michael Johnson's versus Daniel Zellhuber. This is what happens when a younger guy just overlooks somebody. Really, this is what it is. Measuring from these guys, Zellhuber landing low kicks, staying on the outside. Johnson catches a kick, wanting to land some ground and pound, but then his shorts got ripped off. Like a portion of his shorts ripped, and then he just tore them, so like half the leg was missing. It was really weird. Zellhuber landing to the body with the kicks, and Johnson out of range for his headshots, but he's finding the mark to the body. He did that repeatedly. He just threw to the body instead of throwing up top. Now, he eventually did throw up top. Johnson kicked him in the nuts. Zellhuber stepping into range, and Johnson outlanding him to the head into the body. So anytime Zellhuber would move into range because of the taller guy, he would be able to dictate the range a little bit better. When he would step into Johnson's range, forget about it. The hands were so much cleaner from Johnson. Close round of damage. Most of those kicks from Zellhuber were blocked. And I laned Johnson. Every one of those kicks up top was technically blocked. Yes, they're damaging the arms, but that's a blocked shot. So unless they start counting those different, they're not landed. I mean, you look at the headshots from Zellhuber, he landed 2 of 23, right? A lot of those were kicks, and only two things landed. And I don't think he landed a head kick in this round. My point is, those don't count, whether you like it or not. So 24-12, Michael Johnson outstruck him, outdamaged him, and won this round. 10-9. Zellhuber digging the kicks to the body and the arms up top. Johnson landing to the body with the jab, the left hand, and coming up top, just not landing flush when he's landing. And then, boom, as I'm writing that, he comes up top with that left hand, puts him down. All those kicks to the arms of Johnson are technically blocked shots, and he got dropped. So 30-27, clearly Johnson won this round. So I have him up 2-0. Last round, Zellhuber kicking up the middle. He was doing better in this last round with kicking up the middle instead of kicking across, round kicking. So He was finding the body with Johnson. Johnson was still countering. Again, each one of those kicks to the arms is blocked, and Johnson lands to the body with the jab. Every time he would block a shot, he would come with the 1-2, and he would land to the body. So every time he'd block a shot, that's 0 for Zellhuber, and Johnson would land 1 or 2. So that's 2 shots for him. And he just outstruck him yet again. You know, I don't even know if Zellhuber won this last round. I had Johnson up, and he outstruck him here 26-23. Looking at the scorecards, Derek Clearly, Eric Colon, and Giger Camillo all gave him like a consolation round, I guess. Maybe they just felt like, oh, let's just give him one so it's not one-way traffic. But I think Johnson won this outright, 30-27. All right, that video's long enough. We don't need to carry on about anything. Relatively clean night of fights, only a few fouls. The next video will have the prelims in it. If you like this kind of thing, subscribe to the channel. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, awesome, thank you. And then if you liked it, hit the like button. Hope you guys have an amazing week. Love y'all. Peace.